Rachel 9874 asks, Joe, what are the two biggest identifiers of successful versus unsuccessful weight losers? Rachel, it goes like this. The two traits of people who fail as opposed to succeed in losing weight are, number one, they cannot identify self-destructive behavior in their own life, and number two, they cannot see that their time is limited. Those are the two big things that separate the successes from the failures. So, someone who lives a lifestyle that is self-destructive, someone who binges, someone who drinks habitually, someone who eats the typical Western diet and is a runaway freight train in terms of their lack of self-control. That person is going to die. Maybe sooner, maybe later, but their lifestyle is not sustainable. That, of course, is how you really tell how bad off a person is, or because their lifestyle can't be sustained. In fact, that applies to anything in life if it's legit or not. That applies to a logical argument. An argument that contradicts itself is itself false. That's what you learn in philosophy. But the destructive aspect of it is the fact that people don't realize what they're doing. I've got a lot of young guys that work for me, young guys and gals, and I'll hear about their tales going to the clubs, and of course they're in their early 20s, so their idea of a good time is to go out to a loud, smoky bar where a bunch of reverberating music is, and there's a bunch of people with all sorts of, dolled up, over too much cologne wearing people are all around, and they're gyrating their bodies to these stupid sounds, and they're sitting there pounding down shots, one after another all night. They have, these subordinates of mine, they have zero idea that their behavior is not sustainable. It is self-destructive behavior, and several of them I'm thinking of, since I started work there, they are fatter because they don't eat good as it is. They eat the typical Western diet, but the fact that they're drinking is going to put on a belly. And of course, if you don't know that you'll get a belly from drinking, you haven't been alive very long. So that's the first thing. They can't identify self-destructive behavior. Those 20-year-olds have zero idea that in 10 years they're going to be doing the same thing. They're going to get sick. It makes me sick now to go and try to do that. I don't drink, but I have, and I don't enjoy it. And I think that usually there's a defect with people who have to drink because they're hiding from something. They're running from something usually. Number two, they cannot see that their time is limited. Same crowd. In their mind, they know that they should watch their calories on some level. Just like you've always heard that it's good to eat your broccoli. You've always heard that it's a good idea to eat a balanced diet. You've always heard that it's a good idea to get a lot of water as opposed to stuff that's not good for you, sugary beverages. You know that, but until you get to a point in life where you understand what it's like to be out of control, it doesn't really mean anything to you. Much the same way you can be told how to drive a car, but until you actually drive a car, you can't appreciate the dynamic involved because you haven't really done it. There's a Dutch proverb that says we're too soon old and too late smart. And that's the way it is with, you talk about youth growing up, we don't realize the self-destructive nature of things. And so that we feel like we have all the time we want. For those of you watching this in your 20s who are getting a hold of your weight or thinking of getting a hold of your weight when you're in your 20s, now is the time. When I first did OMAD back in 1993, I went from 193 pounds to 162. And at the time, I wasn't quite as tall as I am now, so I wasn't done growing. But when I did that, I did it. I knocked it right out. But I didn't have the wisdom to know that if I didn't stay on top of it, then I would eventually recreate the problems I did. And of course I did. When I went through college, I started putting the weight back on. By the time I got out of college, I was almost 250 pounds. 3 years later, I was 300 pounds. Because self-destructive behavior doesn't know its limits. That's what makes it self-destructive behavior. It is, by nature, futile. And working together with our second point, not understanding the limitations on time, not understanding how quickly time will get away from you. You're going to blink, 20-year-olds, and you're going to be 40. You're going to blink and it's all going to disappear. Now, this is not an old person lecture like it already sounds like, but a point about understanding these dynamics. If you want to be successful in managing your weight, regardless of your age, regardless of your health or your health problems or your challenges, what you have to understand is two things. You have to be able to identify self-destructive behavior in yourself and stop it, and you have to understand that your time is limited. You cannot miss either one of those. I could sit here any day and tell you all of the little reasons why I took control of my weight later in life. I can tell you that I couldn't climb stairs, that I was tired of people talking about my weight, I was tired of breathing hard, I was tired of not being able to sit down and put my socks on without a lot of difficulty and getting out of breath. I can tell you about my knees and feet being in constant pain. I can give you all of those things and more. But the real identifiers of success versus failure are these two reasons. The ability to recognize self-destructive behavior and correct it, and the ability to recognize that your time is limited. You don't have as much time as you want. Recognize those two things, and you have the tools, notice I said tools, to get in control. Maybe you're at a point in life now where you're not ready. Maybe you are. Hopefully, if you're watching this, you are. It's a scary thought. But those are the two big things. Master those, have an understanding of those in your core being, and you will have the tools to succeed.